Okay, just let me begin by saying, asking about your yesterday's keynote address. You mentioned that there are emerging 8 to 10 centers of relative geopolitical autonomy. I'm just curious about what could be remaining 4 or 6 centers.
Oh, well, I had said that I thought the 4 strong ones were in the global north, which was the United States, of course, Western Europe, and particularly the France-Germany tandem, Russia, and what I called Northeast Asia, or everyone calls, which means basically the combination of China, Korea, and Japan. And these were the 4 strong ones because they were strong in combining in different ways military strength, economic strength, and political ideological strength in different combinations. And there are maybe 6, 7, 8 other centers emerging of relative autonomy. India is an obvious one. Indonesia is a potential one. Iran is a potential one. South Africa or Southern Africa. Brazil or South America with Brazil as its leader. There may be others. Turkey. It depends what one means by relative autonomy, but the point is that there are a whole series of countries or combinations of countries which play a relatively autonomous role now in the world scene.
Our mayor song is very much enthusiastic of the revitalizing, North and South Korea relations. So maybe first we may hear the mayor song's the position, maybe directly, and then maybe you make some comment on that.
Okay, fine.
When I read your true sources, I'm very interested. But let me introduce my political background. Before I became the politician, I was to student movement, anti-military dictatorship, and I was engaged in the labor movement to improve the right of workforce. At the time, when I was a student, I lead the Morris Dove and Paul Switch. They are the theory conflict, very famous. I read your books through this, the Morris Dove and Paul Switch. I think that is North Korea problems that I think to the also the world system, the part of the world system, I think. North Korea problem is the legacy of the Cold War, as you know, and so the Japanese imperialism and the colonial age, the legacy, we should overcome. It's not through only our Korea's mission. It's the responsibility is also the rise in Japan and America, China, Russia. So, if we did some kind of like a Marshall Plan through the revitalizer of the German after World War II, we are ordered to install some kind of the World Development Bank for the North Korea. And so to North Korea problems I think the quite different the President Lee Myung-bak's policy. As you know, Lee Myung-bak, the incumbent president of our Korea, Lee Myung-bak adapted some very hard policy to North Korea. But it's quite some split to the America and South Korea. I think Mr. Obama and George W. Bush, they are neglecting North Korea, and they are dismissed on some kind of the time and opportunity to the further development of the nuclear facility in North Korea. They didn't take the meaningful measures, just neglect and abandon. So North Korea, they wanted to the dealing, they have some kind of the nuclear program. They wanted to strongly discuss the six-way talks, but the American position and South Korea position is very negative and reluctant to the resumption of the six-way talks. The reason why, I think America already to accept the nuclear weapons country as North Korea, just the main interest of the America is not proliferation of the nuclear, just they are blocking to North Korea. If the North Korea have a nuclear weapons, no problem, they think. Inevitably, they accept this situation. But the South Korea position is we are denuclearization of the North Korea. We cannot ally with to the nuclear weapons country of North Korea. It's very dangerous to South Korea. This kind of the split to the interest in South Korea and America, they are now just to the very reluctant to resume the 6-way talks. It's very dangerous situation. So my perspective is I strongly to the successor of the Kim Dae-jung, ex-president of Kim Dae-jung, and engagement policy, so-called the sunshine policy. So as you know, our Incheon city is very from the forefront city of the North Korea. We are 174 kilometers east to just to the front to North Korea, the borderline. Mm-hmm. As you know, the Cheonam, the Korea vessels was sunken by the sudden attack of North Korea. So we are tension is very high, this LOC. So my concern is to how can we diffuse the tension and as the efficient measures to the collaborative economic level. Yeah. The Gaesong Industrial Complex only far from the Incheon is 60 kilometers. It takes only 30 minutes by drive. So already Gaesong Industrial Complex 140 corporation is working. About 40,000 North Korea workforce now working that the 140 the enterprise. It's very amazing. Their salary is only the $74 every month, 1 month. Very low is the salary. Very competitive some aspect. So the North Korea, the workforce and the land is the cost is very low. It's very competitive. So we combine the South Korea capital and technologies to the very unique the industry cluster among the Northeast Asia. Right. My vision is as a mayor of Incheon City, we are strongly suggest the North Korea to collaborate to the economic level and sports and cultural level. But it's some kind of obstacle to the central government to take harder policy to North Korea is conflict over the municipal government.
You're absolutely right. First of all, the whole split between North and South Korea is a function of how the Second World War ended and the Russian troops came up to the 38th parallel and the U.S. troops came up and they stayed there. And then we had a North Korean government which called itself the government of all of Korea, and we had a South Korean government which pretended to be the government of all of Korea, and it was sustained by the Cold War, absolutely. And we had very repressive regimes on both sides. Now, due to your wonderful student movement and the trade unions, you managed to democratize South Korea. So that was very wonderful, and it did change the situation. And you're perfectly right. Look, the North Koreans decided, it's quite clear, they decided somewhere around 2000, maybe a little earlier, that they were going to go forward and get nuclear weapons. And one of the reasons I think they decided that was the Iraq War. I think they said the reason the U.S. went into Iraq is because Iraq did not have nuclear weapons. Yes. If we have nuclear weapons, the U.S. won't go. They were right. They were right. 2 nuclear weapons is enough to discourage the U.S. from sending troops to North Korea. So now, if you look at it from the North Korean point of view, you have a regime who is weak in many ways, but its one great strength at the moment is that it has nuclear weapons. Yeah. It's not going to give them up very easily. And I think you talk correctly, I think, about the fact that the U.S. neglected, in some sense. They didn't really neglect. The U.S. under George W. Bush was so concentrated on the problems of the Middle East, of Iraq, Iran, and Palestine, and so forth. That was so much the center of their attention and energy that they couldn't do anything else. So basically, Everything else was verbiage, but not action. But on the other hand, they were tough, so they weren't going to really talk to North Korea. So this combination of being really tough and not talking, but not really doing anything, resulted in nothing happening. Okay. And in South Korea tried the sunshine policy, which worked up to a point. It did loosen up relations. Then you changed governments, and the new government, the present government, said, we don't like the sunshine policy, we're going to be tough again. And it's all very well, but tough means what? I noticed in just today's newspaper that your president has retreated just a little bit on the Chonan question, saying he's not insisting now on an apology. He hopes to get an apology, but he's not insisting on it as a prerequisite. So that's already a slightly less tough line.
Yes.
Okay. Now, look, both North Korea and South Korea are obsessed by the German example. The North Koreans say what happened in Germany is that the communist regime collapsed completely. They were absorbed, and the whole leadership was wiped out at every level. And the North Koreans don't want that. And the South Koreans look at that and say, look, Germany has had to pay an enormous economic price for this integration of East Germany, and maybe that's going to hurt South Korea's economy if they have to pay the same price. So in that sense, both sides would like reunification, I think, but both sides are very afraid of it. And the North Koreans, even more than the South Koreans, are afraid of it. On the other hand, let me say that the history of communist regimes in the modern world is there are many sudden surprises. We could list them in country after country. Suddenly, one day, everything seems to change very quickly. You know, you didn't expect it. We could have surprises in North Korea. I don't know what the surprises will be, okay? We're about to have a new leader. The old one is dying. He's appointed more or less his son to be his successor. His son has now moved into number 2 position. He was number 6 2 weeks ago, and he was number 26 3 weeks ago, but now he's already number 2, okay? So I suppose that means that when his father dies, he's number 1. I assume that the regime doesn't change in some ways. It's too hard for it to maintain its present style. And among other things, the Chinese are urging it to change, more free economic zones and other ideas that they are pushing on the North Koreans. So I certainly think it is very good to try to keep talking to them.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. 월러스틴 and Mayor Song.
Thank you very much. Your intelligent, insight perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.